Hello and welcome to this week's Friday Afternoon Live. Kev's away this week, so you're stuck with me, Calum Fuller, one of the reporters at Accountancy Age, and it's a beautiful day today in sunny Piccadilly. Today we're going to be looking at the OECD's BEPS project and NonDoms, which is becoming a sort of perennial issue this year. The fruits of the OECD's BEPS project is what we're going to focus on first, and that's all going to be revealed on Monday. But key to its plans to curb tax avoidance and evasion is the automatic exchange of financial information between governments. There's 92 governments currently signed up to get that in place by 2018, 51 of which have agreed to put exchange systems in place by 2017, which is all good, but I'd expect a progress update on that on Monday, greater detail on how it will be achieved, and also the US's place in all this is critical too, because the biggest problem the OECD is seeking to tackle is the movement of tax offshore into low tax jurisdictions, and often that means, especially in the case of American-based companies, shifting the tax firstly to a low tax jurisdiction in Europe, and then later on into some sunny Caribbean island where that money sits for a long time until there's a tax holiday in the States. Now the US has been placing more store by FATCA rather than by the BEPS project itself, so that problem might well remain unless the US gets on board. So we'll be looking forward to see how that pans out on Monday. Another area the OECD has found troubling is that unilateral action by some of the governments involved, including Britain, which has been championing the BEPS project, but still struck out on its own in some areas, most notably the Google tax earlier this year. That's been described by Pascal Saint-Amand, who's heading the project, as something of an embarrassment. So I'd expect recommendations in order to prevent countries competing on rates and introducing measures like the Google tax, which can undermine the whole project. And lastly, on the OECD, I'd expect recommendations targeting businesses, actually punishing the businesses engaging in profit shifting themselves, and transfer pricing recommendations as well. The only other problem with all of this is it's only recommendations, and it's very much up to governments to pick and choose what they go with in the end. So all in all, it could, despite a lot of good work, fall on its face unless everyone is on the same page. On NonDoms, a consultation was released by the Treasury this week. Initially on Monday in error, it was pulled, much to the confusion of all sorts of people, before it was then re-released later in the week. The government's looking to overhaul the non-dom regime because it's fairly arcane. Things like the male lineage element of it is very, very 15th century. But that's not the only area that's caused a bit of consternation. They're seeking to introduce a deemed domicile rule, which will mean that long-term residents of the UK can no longer claim to be not domiciled for tax purposes, which effectively will mean the abolition of the permanency of non-dom status. The new rules will also ensure that individuals who are born in the UK and who are UK domiciled at birth will not be able to claim that they're not domiciled for tax purposes while they're living in the UK. So they'll be able to lose their UK domicile when they live overseas and in other countries. And once they're back here, they'll have to shift back to their UK domicile. That element's got a few people's goat because the CIOT, for example, has described it as unduly harsh and points out that attaching such importance to where somebody is born, which is clearly obviously outside anyone's control, is quite weird and something of a curiosity to them. Many people are born here and then go on to live the rest of their lives overseas. So it's that's something of a bone of contention for a lot of people, but the consultation's there for just that, for consultation. So if you've got a strong view on it, I'd recommend you submit your view to the Treasury. The only other point is is that NonDoms have been constantly in the press all year, and it's causing some uncertainty, particularly for NonDoms themselves. So we eventually have to draw a line under it and commit to a set of rules. Otherwise, they'll pack up their bags and leave. That's all for this week. Chris, have you had any questions?
No, he just had a request from Florrie in Honolulu to say hello. So.
Well, hello to Honolulu. Join us next week then, when Kevin will resume his duties in the hot seat. That's all. Bye-bye. Pull it down from the top.